Good evening and welcome to the April 21st, 2026 regularly scheduled City Council meeting. Kathleen, would you lead us in prayer, please?
I'd be happy to. Dear Lord, we ask you to guide us, protect us, defend us, save us, and shield us. Tonight we particularly pray for all those who are depressed and hopeless and their families, for all who have suffered losses and are grieving. Please, Lord, hold them in your loving arms and show them the way. We ask all of this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
If you'll stand for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Anything on open forum? Okay. Okay, next item is open forum, and tonight we have none. Next item, items to be removed from the consent agenda, if any.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
You have a motion to approve? Second. And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next item is the regular agenda. First item, 6A, discuss and consider action on historic overlay case HO 2025-02 regarding a historic overlay designation on one parcel of land approximately 0.18 acres in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District, parcel 23796 and located at 515 Bailey Avenue, Nacogdoches, Texas. Jessica?
Mayor, Council, Jessica Sal, Community Services Director. The item in front of you is our historic overlay case, our newest one for HO 25-001. This property is 515 Bailey Avenue. They are applying to be individually designated under our historic overlay. We have 5 historic overlay neighborhoods or districts, and then we have some properties that are outside of those and want to be individually designated so they can go on preserving their home. The applicant, Isabella Baker, applied under criteria 3 and 6. In our ordinance, there are 6 different criteria for review, and at least one of them has to be met, and so the applicant has to pick at least one. In this case, she picked 2 of them. One of them is number 3, means this property is associated with the lives of persons significant to the city's past, as well as 6, which represents an established and familiar visual feature of the city. The property on the map, or on the image in front of you, is connected to 1301 Regay Street, which came before council about 6 months ago for historic overlay consideration, Dr. Taylor's medical office. This property was built around 1910, and then once the Taylor office building was built, was used for lodging for physicians. So they've been connected for a very long time. This item, you can also see on the map here, 515 Bailey Avenue, directly to the right is the property that's now under overlay. They're all across the street from Blunt Park and near Memorial Hospital. As you can see before you is our criteria. The 2 highlighted are the ones the applicant selected. They also met all of our application requirements as far as submitting a narrative, any historic documentation, photos, and things of that nature. This item was taken to the Historic Landmark Preservation Committee on February 2nd. They recommended approval. And then it was taken to our Planning and Zoning Committee on April 13th, who also recommended approval. This is a 3-step process. So to be put under historic overlay, first they have to apply, go to HLPC. If that's approved, you go to Planning and Zoning. And if both of those boards agree, then it comes to you as City Council. If it's approved tonight, we then update our maps, and this property falls under all of the Chapter 50 criteria. So they have to maintain the exterior of their home. If they want to do any work to the exterior, they then have to go through HLPC for approval. And they also have to keep it in good shape and can't let it fall into disrepair. And so I know this is a public hearing, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have after the public hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing to any comments from the audience? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to council discussion, if any.
I'll make the motion if there's no questions, that we approve the historic overlay designation for this property as outlined in item 6A.
Second.
Have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Jessica. Item 6B is also a public hearing. Discuss and consider action on specific use permit case SUP 2026-03 regarding a specific use permit request for utility facility major in an R2 single-family district on one parcel of land approximately 2.9 acres plus or minus in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District parcel 25733 and generally located on the south side of Southeast Stallings Drive, approximately 200 feet west of Lavere Drive, Nacogdoches, Texas. Mr. Paulette.
Good evening, Council. Juan Paulette, City Planner. So this property is approximately 2.91 acres and is located along Southeast Stallings Drive. The site is currently developed with an existing Encore substation and is adjacent to residential homes to the east and industrial type uses to the west. The southern portion of the property is undeveloped and is where the proposed expansion will occur. The subject property is zoned single-family residential. The surrounding areas consist of residential zoning to the east and industrial zoning to the west and additional undeveloped land to the south. The subject property is designated industrial on the future land use map. This designation extends along the corridor to the west, while areas to the east are designated for single-family residential. The proposed expansion of the existing substation is consistent with the existing industrial future land use designation. This slide shows the proposed site plan for the expansion of the substation. The expansion is located towards the rear of the property and includes additional electrical equipment and associated infrastructures. Access to the site will remain from Stallings Drive and no significant changes to access or circulation are proposed. Also shown here is the proposed 8-foot masonry screening wall along the site adjacent to residential properties, intended to help mitigate visual and noise impacts. In addition, existing vegetation along the property lines will be preserved and where it does not conflict with proposed construction. This is a picture of the subject property entrance from the loop and some adjacent industrial properties to the west and adjacent residential properties to the east. This slide shows the 200-foot notification area. Property owners within 200 feet were mailed notice letters, while property owners within 200 and 500 feet were mailed courtesy notice postcards. A neighborhood meeting was also held and 6 residents attended the meeting and expressed concerns. The concerns were primarily related to noise from existing and proposed transformers, the proximity of new equipment to nearby homes, perceived health impacts related to electromagnetic fields, and potential access through adjacent properties and nighttime maintenance activity impacting residential properties. Staff has reviewed the request based on these criteria and with input from property owners have developed recommended conditions to access concerns raised. An 8-foot masonry screening wall along the residential property line, as well as preservation of existing vegetation that does not overhang into the substation or encroach within 15 feet of the security fence to maintain a natural buffer. Additional conditions include minimizing noise and light during maintenance activities and restricting access to the site from Stallings Drive only. These conditions are intended to reduce potential impacts and maintain compatibility with the adjacent residential properties. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item on April 13th and recommended approval. And this concludes my presentation, and the Encore representative, Ashton Miller, would like to address the council at this time.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Ashton Miller. I am a project manager with Encore, located at 777 Main Street in Fort Worth, Texas. Appreciate y'all hearing our request to approve the specific use permit. Just to go a little bit of high-level information regarding, why we're here and what we're requesting. So to go over the property, Encore has owned the property and operated this substation since 1969. Our request is to replace the 2 existing transformers and also add 2 additional transformers onto the property. So we've got our existing substation site. It's just under half of an acre. Again, it went in service 1969. It's a 2 transformer substation, has a single point of access today, and it is surrounded and secured by a chain link fence. So we've got our new plan here. We're going to be backing out the new equipment further away from the loop, just off of the road a little bit more. It does just about double. It does double the size of the substation. We are proposing to construct an 8-foot masonry screening wall along the east side to better screen the substation equipment from the residents that back up to the substation. So just to kind of paint the picture of where we are located to the other Encore stations in the area. We're just located just south, and it serves, which I've got a couple slides that showed just the distribution network that shows how it serves the businesses and residents within the area. So here, just kind of a pinpoint that this substation does serve. These are all of the different customers and residents that are utilize and depend on this substation. And there's the distribution network, so the wood poles and just how that connects into that station. So it serves the southern part of Nacogdoches and then further east into the county. So that we had the neighborhood meeting. We heard some concerns from the residents just on how close the existing transformers were to their back property fence and where the chain link fence was located. So the existing transformers are just over 47 feet away from their back property line, and then the fence is just over 34 feet away. And so with this proposed expansion of this station, it does increase the distances of the new transformers and the fencing, the masonry wall from their back property fence. So the closest transformer will be over 62 feet away from their back property line, and then the new masonry wall will be over 40 feet away. So a little bit of an improvement there, additional buffer to back it away from those property lines. And here's a couple of pictures of masonry walls that we've constructed at other stations, and is representative of what will be constructed with this new station. So just to go over benefits of replacing this station, improved electrical services. So over 2,000 residents and businesses rely on this station today to keep their businesses operating and power on at those homes. So it's very critical to improving this station so that we can continue to provide safe, reliable electricity for those customers and the homes. The equipment has reached end of life, which, like all mechanical equipment, requires replacement over time. So that's with older equipment, it does increase the likelihood that there's that equipment could fail. And then just to go over some of the fire risk, with this new transformers, new equipment that we're placing, it does decrease the risk for any type of fire to occur with this equipment. Reduce noise. So with the new transformers, we have found that they're considerably quieter than a lot of the old ones, especially ones that date back to the 1960s, 70s era. There's been a lot of improvements made to the type of equipment that we're putting. So we can expect a reduced amount of noise, reduced electrical field. The electric field strength is typically below background levels outside of the station fencing. So really if you're standing at the station fence, you really won't pick up any type of EMF ratings. Whenever you're inside of a station, of course, you would pick up some. And then increased visual shielding with that 8-foot masonry screening wall as opposed to what's there today as the chain link fence. So with that, more than happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
We may have some, we need to open the public hearing
Sure,
first. if you don't
absolutely.
mind. Okay, this is a public hearing, and we will now open the hearing to anyone in the audience, if they have something to say. There being none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll go to council discussion.
Question? So are you replacing the 1969 equipment also? I mean, are you building a whole new thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so you'll have to take out all the old stuff and all that?
That's correct.
Okay. And everybody's talking about energy storage systems, and they talk about that it's easiest to place it by those kind of energy stations.
Mhm.
Is that a possibility?
Based on the homes that are there along Lavere Street and then the businesses that are there, I see the practicality of that. To be honest with you, very slim that anything would connect into this substation. No.
If you go back, are you through, Brad?
Yeah.
If you go back to that chart on all the substations that we have in town,
Yes, sir.
you want to replace them all?
Do I want? This is the only one I know of right now that we're
Because I know
replacing.
they're all old,
Yes, sir.
That
And-
looked like a yes in his eyes.
Hey, it'd be more work for me, and I like to be busy. So
Okay.
Because I know, I can't think of maybe one or two that are fairly new. The rest of them are just older than dirt. So, anyways, I'm okay with this. Is if it makes electricity more reliable, and you protect it from the property owners, I'm good with it. So that's my main thing is
Thank
the
you.
property owners.
Did I hear you say that the property owners, it was 47 feet where it is now, and when you replace it, it'll be 62?
let's see. Yes, sir. The closest transformer is 47 feet, and then once the construction's completed, that new transformer's installed, it'll be 62 feet.
Well, enough for the
You want to do them all?
I had one hand in the back there. I think she was-
Yes, ma'am. You have to come up here, ma'am.
Come on up.
You have to come up here. It has to be on the record. Yes. Yeah, I'll reopen the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. I'm coming off of his question that he had for him. My name is Judy Montgomery, and my question is, when will you start this? Will this be going on at nighttime or daytime? Because a lot of times your people come at night and work. Day or night?
That's a question for you, sir.
Yes.
So during construction, we'll adhere to the city's ordinances for allowable times of construction. And with your comment for working at night, Nolan Smith, our area manager, I'm sure that you all know, he did take that back and make sure that the crews aren't working at night. So you shouldn't see any, if that was going on, shouldn't see that.
Unless there's a power outage.
Yeah, and in emergency situations, we'll do what we need to do to make sure that power is restored. So, if it's an emergency type of situation, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to council discussion. If any. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve specific use permit SUP 202603, request for utility facility in R2 single-family district on one parcel of land, 2.91 acres in size, on the southeast Stallings Drive, approximately 200 feet west of Lavere Drive in Nacogdoches. Am I on the right one? Okay, so I make that motion.
A second.
Have a motion and a second?
I assume that's with the conditions as noted.
Yes. Through planning and zoning?
You want to modify your motion?
No,
Include those conditions?
no, I mean, I made the motion. So he seconded it. Let's vote on it and then we can vote it down if you want to.
So just so I understand,
So the motion currently does not have the conditions as part of the motion.
You want to amend that?
But you can just say it differently if you want, with the conditions.
You can amend the motion.
Yeah, just
could just-
amend the motion so that everybody's happy.
Okay, are you ready for an amendment? Right, or let's vote on the amendment first, right? Did you want to put the amendment up, Chad, or do you want me to?
yeah, I'll move that we amend the existing motion to include the conditions as recommended by staff and presented at planning and zoning.
I'll second the amendment. Now you want the vote
Well, we have a motion and a second.
on the amendment?
It's been amended.
Okay, now we need to vote.
You have a
Oh.
vote.
Okay, now what are we voting on?
Second the motion.
It's the whole
As amended.
platter.
As amended?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're voting on,
Now you
is the
are.
motion and the amendment.
And then
Okay,
No.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with amendments. Okay, next item, item 6C. Discuss and consider action on specific use permit case SUP 2026-04 regarding a specific use permit request for a radio, TV, microwave, or cellular transmission tower, commercial, in an R2 single-family district on one parcel of land approximately 15.97 acres plus or minus in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District Parcel 24944 and generally located on the south side of Douglas Road, approximately 1/4 mile east of Northwest Stallings Drive, Nacogdoches, Texas. Mr. Paulette.
Council, Juan Paulette, City Planner. So this site is approximately 16 acres and is located on the south side of Douglas Road, approximately 1/4 mile east of the loop. The property is largely undeveloped and consists of dense vegetation and tree cover. The proposed 240-foot communication tower is located near the center of the tract, providing separation from surrounding properties. The subject property is located in a R2 single-family residential zoning district. The surrounding area consists of general business zoning to the north and west, with single-family residential zoning to the east and south. The future land use designation for the subject property is mostly rural development with a small section of single-family residential on the eastern portion. Both designations are intended to support low-density development patterns. The proposed communication tower is a low-intensity use and is not anticipated to negatively impact compatibility of surrounding land uses. This slide shows the proposed site plan for the communication tower. The tower is located near the center of the property and is set back approximately 260 feet from the nearest property lines. In the unlikely event of structural failure, the tower would fall within the boundaries of the property. The site will be accessed from Douglas Road, and the tower will include a small equipment area and a surrounding chain link fence. Due to the height and its location within the airport airspace protection area, the proposed tower was reviewed by the Federal Aviation Administration and determined that the structure does not pose a hazard to air navigation. This is a picture of the subject property from Douglas Road. And adjacent property to the west, and adjacent residential property to the east. This slide shows a 200-foot notification area for the request. Property owners within 200 feet were mailed a notice letters, and property owners within 200 and 500 feet received courtesy notice postcards. No responses were received in favor or in opposition of the request. A neighborhood meeting was held on March 23rd, and one of the neighboring residents attended with questions but was not opposed to the project. Staff has reviewed the request based on these criteria and finds that the proposed use is considered to be compatible with the surrounding properties, will not impede the orderly development of the area, and is not expected to create adverse impacts related to traffic, infrastructure, or nuisances. Staff is not recommending additional conditions for this use, and Planning and Zoning heard this item on April 13th and recommended approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing. If anybody's got any comment in the audience?
Hi, Michael Crane. I'm a zoning consultant for Encore 605 East Border Street, Arlington, Texas. I just wanted to point out the purpose of this is a continuation of the infrastructure improvements for Encore. The purpose is to enhance the smart meter technology, communication with the technicians, and just overall power grid management. So I'm here to answer any questions that may come up.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir, very much. Okay, if no other comment, I'll close the public hearing and open the, for council discussion. If any, or I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the specific use permit as noted in item 6C.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item is a public hearing. Consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Nacogdoches, Texas, amending Chapter 118 zoning, Article 2, Administration, Division 2, Planning and Zoning Commission, Section 118-66, Organization of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Nacogdoches, Texas, providing a severability clause, providing a continuation clause, and providing a repeal clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. New.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike New, Executive Director, Development and Infrastructure. Tonight's item is a proposed amendment to our zoning ordinance to include 2 additional alternate members to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Just quick recap, I know you're very familiar with this, but for the public's sake, our commissioners have 5 members, each appointed to 2-year terms. They meet on average once a month when there is business for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Their powers include recommending amendments to the city's comprehensive and thoroughfare plans, advise on zoning regulations, and call public hearings to determine proper zoning, to essentially consider zoning requests. In addition to that, outside of Chapter 118, they do have authority to approve and provide input and make considerations upon plat documents. So what's driving this? We've recently had some absences on the commission, one in particular that drove delay of a meeting or cancellation of a meeting in February. Lack of quorum delayed some of our commission business. Why is that important? Texas legislature in 2019 passed HB 3167, which provided essentially a shot clock. It's what municipalities refer to this legislation as. Essentially, it's a time limit on the city's ability to administer and review and consider plat documents, in particular platting requests within the city. Any subdivisions typically are handled within a specific chapter, but our Planning and Zoning Commission has authority over those particular documents in their review. If the commission is not willing to consider those or able to consider those within a 30-day time frame, the applicant, whatever the plating request is can request that be automatically approved, essentially preemptively approved via state regulation. What we want to ensure is that our commission is able to meet as a body and exercise the powers that the council has given them. Our recommendation is that in order to ensure that the commission can meet once a month, and that is the time frame that we've established and historically the commission has followed in the last few years, that appointing no more than 2 alternate members would ensure that at least there's additional membership that can fill in case there are vacancies or absences for whatever reason. Now, the commission has averaged about 90% attendance rate, with some attendance issues just in the last 2 or 3 months. We wanted to get ahead of it in case there are any, if there are any issues or any other further delays. We didn't want that to interrupt the commission's business or impede on their ability as a commission to do what council has authorized them to do. So what are we recommending specifically? In section 11866, it outlines briefly the commission's roles and responsibilities. What we provide for here is a definition of 5 regular members and 2 alternate members, and also establishing that 3 members still constitutes a quorum for the commission, and that they will meet on a regular basis. And we included this in some other commissions specifically, so this was the time to add it here, that the commission will elect a chair and a vice chair, typically during those appointment cycles in the summer and July and August timeframe, and that they meet regularly. I did not. Some cities dictate that they meet on very specific timeframes. We did not do that here, just because there are months, and typically usually it's 1 month, December or January, where there is no business for the commission. We may get busier. I anticipate that we as a community will be busier and the commission will have more business before them. We don't want them or the applicants to be delayed in that matter, and that's what's driving this. The Zoning Ordinance Subcommittee did review these amendments on March 31st and agreed to move that forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did also review these amendments and recommended approval on April 13th. And I'll be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? There being none, we will close the public hearing. I'll just say one thing that there was an instance that I think we voted on last meeting or the meeting before, where there was a gentleman, there was not going to be a quorum, and one of the 3 had to drive from Tyler to get here in time because he didn't want to put the city in a bad situation. And I think what administration's trying to do is take us out of a position where we don't have enough people there, and something that we don't want or something that doesn't go before the P&Z automatically gets approved by default. Is that right, Mike?
That's correct.
And I think this council has added, we're really good at adding people to committees. And I don't think this is any big deal at all, so.
And again, prior to some legislative changes and more attention and focus by the state on city government, this is an authority that is becoming increasingly important for council's considerations as well. As P&Z reviews these initially, takes that first glance, provides input, asks questions, secures feedback. It benefits the council's decision making as well. So missing that for any reason, delaying that, does have an impact on development, on plating, and how we do business as a city. So it becomes increasingly important that those meetings be held on a regular basis.
When will those 2 new members be appointed, like at the next, because we appoint at certain times, or will it be moved up?
Correct. Our interest in bringing this to you now is that we can get along the schedule of council's appointments for the next cycle, which we anticipate those requests for applicants will go out in the next month, probably in the next 30 days. If council approves this ordinance amendment tonight, the alternate members will be part of that pool, and we'll be seeking applications for individuals to serve as alternate members.
And forgive me, but did we have a chairman and a vice chair before?
We do have a chair and vice chair on the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's not spelled out in the language specifically.
Yeah,
but
because
of
I
course,
thought that was new, that was added, wasn't it?
it was language added to Planning and Zoning Commission. It is language that you would find in the Zoning Board of Adjustment and also Building Standards Commission. So we're trying to be consistent with how some of these other commissions, how they're reflected within our ordinances as well. I will add that P&Z Commission did have some questions about procedure, meaning how would the alternates be seated if there were an absence. I did mention that we would ask that council, and certainly it's up to the council on how that's done, but following Robert's Rules of Order, those alternates would be appointed in a specific order. That council would appoint alternate 1, alternate 2, and they would be seated as such if there were a vacancy or an absence, and staff would coordinate that with those specific alternates. It's a little bit different from what our Zoning Board of Adjustment has done. They came up with a little bit of different procedure, more of a, I guess, a lottery, a lottery poll before each meeting. We've only done that a couple of times because ZBA has not met that frequently in the last year, but it's certainly up to the council how that is done. We didn't necessarily want to reflect that. We weren't prepared to do that for this amendment, but it can be done internally, and there's no requirement that it be done a certain way. If we follow Robert's rules, we would do that in alternate order and present that within the applications as such.
So, was there notice given by the planning and zoning members that they would not be able to attend, or was this just a last-minute surprise, or what happened?
Attend?
The meetings, the planning and zoning meeting, where we barely had 3. So maybe we need to make sure there's notice given that they won't.
The genesis for this was because they were last minute, hey, I can't make it
Right.
scenarios. And I do think, and this is, I hate to use contact sports, but typically if someone knows there's an impending backup that
Right.
can come in for them, they play better. So I would hope on both fronts it would mean, the fact that some of the members are inquiring, well, how's this going to work? Some may say, well, I don't want someone casting my vote. And so hopefully this will get everybody on the same page. Also, just knowing that we have a process, and if you're going to participate, then
So
Johnny,
let me rephrase it or
Sure.
re-ask that too. I hope we do have some procedure that they say that they give at least 4 days notice, or that they will not be attending or something. And then the follow-up is, at one point, I believe you suggested that that the alternates would be required to attend all planning and zoning meetings, or
That
so
would be
I'm trying to
consistent with
clarify
how
that.
our Zoning Board of Adjustment procedurally manages alternates, that they're required to attend the meetings, even if they're not seated and participating as voting members. That could be an option here too. We could outline those with guidance from the P&Z Commission and Council as more of a specific procedure in writing.
I know that's not part of the ordinance, but I'm trying to
Correct.
clarify, and because if people ask us, that'll be something we.
If in practice, what we found, particularly for ZBA, since we had spent a little part of a year organizing their rules of procedure, updating what they had, it was beneficial, and the ZBA members, even the alternate members, found it useful to require attendance at those meetings, to capture those packets, to review them in anticipation of potentially being seated, because coming prepared is always the best case scenario for all those members. Not get in the habit of maybe ignoring some of those messages and notifications. What's even more challenging for Planning and Zoning Commission, you mentioned the notification of absence, that if a member was going to be absent or had planned to be absent, they provide plenty of notification. They would have to do that probably more than 30 days in advance. We do issue postcard notifications. You've seen in our SUP,
Okay.
we provide those notification messages to the council and whom we notify and how. We do that typically 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks in advance. And those have to remain on the agenda if they are public hearings. So we're setting those things in motion even 60 days in advance. And those absences, if they're trailing that, even within that window, we still have to post the agenda and we still have to at least follow business. So it becomes difficult to do it enough times in advance.
You can't, I don't think you can put time limit on this. Nobody knows what's gonna happen if there's an emergency, if somebody dies, if somebody's throwing up walking through the front door. I mean, so, I think this was an unusual, thing that happened where it was last minute. And nobody knows what's gonna happen until they walk in that front door and they're here.
From a
And then you still don't know when you get here. you
Sure.
know?
From a staff perspective, one thing we did mention as something staff could do to initiate improvement is have the commission just discuss their schedule for the year in one meeting. Talk through that schedule, understand months in advance what the plans are. We have that opportunity, if it's 3 or 4 months in advance, to reset a meeting date and then plan around a meeting date that we're fairly familiar the commissioners can attend. So there are some things we can do far enough in advance. Unexpected absences become very difficult.
Is that rule still in effect where that if you miss 3 meetings, you can be taken off the board and replaced? Because I know that was when I was on some of those committees, that was,
I believe that's still the case, yes.
yeah. I mean, it was up to the board to do that, but we've had a lot of people miss more than 3 meetings.
And I believe what we've done, I know we've had some turnover since our last appointment review by the council, but we do try to provide those attendance reports to the council on commission members.
Yeah, I don't think we got them last time, but
Okay.
that's helpful, thank you.
Just for clarity on that, if there was an attendance issue, it's the council that would have to remove those people, right?
Correct.
One other note.
Sir.
On the item report, it says it was unanimously approved by, or unanimously recommended by P&Z, 4-0. Were there 4 people at that meeting?
There were 4. We had Commissioner Foe participating virtually.
Okay, I had seen the meeting and I didn't see her on there,
That's
and I
right.
know that the other public hearing item said 3, that
That's
she
right.
was absent, so.
Yeah,
And-
she came into the meeting later, virtually.
Good, thank you. Just wanted to make
But
sure.
that didn't help with the quorum. I mean, you have to have
Correct. We still had a quorum
the
present.
3 people.
Correct.
present.
Again, that we kind of went into that discussion a little bit with the commissioners about what if it's hybrid, what if it always fell back to the standard of 3 present in person constituting a quorum. Then if there are additional, whether they be alternate or regular members, they can participate virtually. If we cannot constitute a quorum of 3 for this particular commission in person, then the meeting cannot move forward. So we'll hold that standard. That's consistent with other boards and commissions and their quorum numbers.
So that actually brings up a good point, since we're talking about alternates. If there is a quorum physically present, do the other commission members get to participate virtually, or do you bring in the alternates that are there physically?
If there's feedback from the council on a specific way to do that, we can. I guess our interpretation is that you would want to seat 5 at all times. If there's 5 in person, whether they be alternates or regular, you'd want to seat all 5. If there are only but 3, then you seat 3. If there are only but 4, you seat 4. If there are 5, that can be 3 in person and 2 virtual. You do 3 in person and 2 virtual, and they all participate. So the goal would be 5, to have 5 members provide input and participate and vote. Otherwise, no. That's kind of the standard that we'll follow, unless council has different direction.
And I don't think we're there yet. I think
Sure.
really we're just, do we want alternates? And I think we're probably all on board with that, but just a thought that came up as
Sure.
we were discussing
And it's
that.
something the commission kind of touched on as well.
Well, I do want to particularly thank you for considering the shot clock, because I heard quite a bit of problems of other cities who have had unwelcome events happen because they missed the shot clock.
And coming from a high-growth city where there is business to be had all over the place, we frequently encountered shot clock issues, and we're under the gun to make sure that we provided the commission with appropriate time and documents to review. So definitely we want to be busy, we want to develop, we want to grow. We don't want to run into issues here where we're ceding authority for that reason.
Where am I at on this? Have I closed the public hearing?
We're still doing council discussion.
Okay, all right.
If you're ready for a
I am.
motion, I'm making the motion that we approve the ordinance of the City of Nacogdoches, amending Chapter 118 zoning as outlined in item 6D.
Second.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, 6E, consider selection of the submission of Hydrex Environmental Consulting LLC in response to solicitation RFQ 26-10-118 for environmental services for Lanana and Bonita sewer replacement projects. Mr. Opperman.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Director of Public Works and City Engineer. There we go. Remembered for the first time ever. Yes, before you this evening to discuss environmental services on the Lanana and Bonita Creek sewer lines. If you recall at the last meeting, we discussed this project in terms of the surveying consultant we had gone out for qualifications on. I will not rehash all the specifics of the project just for respect of y'all's time, but we do have these two sewer mains through town that we are at the beginning stages of looking at replacing. We've been talking about this for a few years, and we have the funding now to do these projects in the CIP. So we went out for qualifications a few weeks ago on environmental services for this work. So this is, again, like surveying, something that has to be done kind of at the beginning stages of this. Can be done and will be done simultaneously with design, but a lot of these aspects of environmental considerations will be important when we get into design. So this contract, if this consultant is selected, will comprise all encompassing environmental reviews, documentation, clearances and permitting. It will involve archaeological, cultural resources. It'll involve wetland studies, endangered species, and things like that. And so we received 8 submissions for qualifications with this solicitation. Very, very close on several of these, but Hydrex Environmental was determined by the independent storing of staff to be the most qualified for this work. And so we've got great experience with Hydrex. They're here locally and do a lot of good work for the city. So we're excited to have them potentially on board for this project. So if selected, we will bring back a contract to council for consideration after we kind of go through scope and develop a proposal from Hydrex. So if I'm happy to answer any questions if there's any public comment or from council.
Any questions?
It's great to see this project moving along, so thank you.
In years.
Yeah, but it's really helpful to,
Need public comment?
It's not a public hearing.
Okay.
I know, it's really helpful to get these. I've been worried about the environmental impact too.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the selection of the submission of Hydrex Environmental Consulting LLC in response to solicitation of RFQ 26-10-118 for environmental services for Lanana and Bonita Creek replacement projects.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, 6F. Hold a discussion regarding the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget, including the calendar establishing deadlines for meetings, workshops, and hearings to approve the upcoming budget. Fiscal year 2026-2027 budget priorities and assessment of fiscal year 2025 and 2026. Okay, Kathleen, you put this on here. Do you want to introduce this, or?
Well, sure, I'll tell you why I put it on
Okay.
to begin with. So in recent meetings, there have been comments made about our role as a council, indicating that some people think it's to approve staff recommendations and settle issues before the meeting and before we've had, and have our questions answered before a council meeting. And I disagree with that philosophy. And I think settling issues before a meeting isn't transparent and could easily violate the Open Meetings Act. And I believe we need to hold discussions about things in advance so that we can provide feedback and input before decisions are considered. And I think it's helpful to have our whole council discuss them. So that's why I asked to put the next two items on the agenda.
Okay.
Rick, you want to?
Well, hang on just a minute. I got a question for her, if you don't mind. Okay, we go through a process every year, so you don't like that process?
I'm sorry, what process are you talking about?
I'm talking about, like this year, there'll be departmental operations, projections. We have department budget meetings. We have budget workshops with the council.
So I think right now we're holding a discussion, so I have some items myself I hope that can be considered in this coming budget. So I'll introduce them to you if you want, or did you want to speak first, Rick?
Well, let me run through the process, and
Sure.
because when we go back through this, you'll also see items that came up during the retreat generally.
Right.
So we bring these things up at several points across a proposed budget year during a given fiscal year. We do, for the sake of time, if there are some specific questions that a single member has, we always say, send us, especially in writing, something. We have had and tried to hold, what were they? Once every 2-week sessions with staff as an option to answer questions. There is nothing in terms of a quorum that we've ever done in terms of answering questions in advance of a meeting. If anything, our job is to provide y'all with as much information heading into a meeting as possible, and then if there's additional questions, we certainly invite those. Nowhere have we said is anything a carte blanche, approve everything that staff recommends. I would say you would have much more information across the board if something comes up, let's say a month out, and we can answer it. And it also doesn't violate quorum. We share that information when those questions come up. That's why we ask for them in writing. We typically ask the city secretary to send the response out to all. BCC everybody. So, we try to do the tell them what you told them and tell them again approach throughout the year. Now with this, we're going to tell you what we told you and tell you again. So I'm running on fumes slightly right now. So I've got this I haven't really looked at this in advance before sitting down, other than giving staff a list of what I wanted to see in here so we could run through this based on your request. Let's see. Do we have another water in here possibly? Not his. Let's see. Okay, so what we're gonna run through, obviously, this is looking at everything. And I don't know what slide we have the budget calendar. I think it's back in. Let's see here. Well, you have this calendar.
Yes.
When I say we share stuff, as soon as finance developed it, this is our schedule.
Rick, is this public somewhere? I mean, I don't think,
This was an internal document that we shared with council for informational purposes.
okay.
And then this is the same, this is actually, would have been discussed in Todd's general approach. I know Todd's not here. Is Kevin here? No. Todd is on a long planned vacation. But this is a proposed tentative schedule for the FY27 budget process. So we sent it to you. Again, council we send it to as an internal document for discussions. If things come up in terms of timing, we have this. If there's any questions today. Is it a public document? Subject to open records request, so, you know, I'd put it that way. I think it should have been included in your packet as well.
It's not in the packet.
Well, it was,
In the-
It's right, I got it right
Well,
here.
I know we have this
I
here,
sent
but
it to
it's
you
not.
in the
a-
weekly to
Oh,
all of
you're talking
council.
about in the weekly?
Yes.
I think it's helpful to have it, you know, to have it published, to see
Well,
that this is where.
It's not
where
a
we're looking
final,
to.
it's not a final schedule.
Right.
Again, if you look at it, most of those deadlines, if you look at all of those items that say departmental and things due to different departments, those are internal deadlines. Those are subject to change.
Right.
So this is, again, we're sharing with you even our internal milestones. Now, again, this is a draft. So with that, I'd ask that this be included in the PowerPoint. I've been at a hospital for the last 3 days, so.
Oh,
okay, it didn't-
sorry.
So, not me, so.
Ugh.
Oh, it is. Is it in here? It's in a different format, apparently.
It's,
Oh, it's even on, it's in the slides.
Oh,
So,
good.
yes,
That's great.
it's included.
that's perfect. That's very, very helpful. And I also appreciate, I do want to say I really appreciate having the budget workshop in July, because we didn't have that last year. But one of my concerns is early on, even before you have departmental meetings, don't you think it might be helpful to get some questions and some thoughts before you have the department start thinking about things?
Well, that was also the purpose in the fall of the retreat. Because, so, what we typically do, we have the snapshot of what we're working on and in the approved budget and what we're looking at heading into the next one. I think you'll see as we look at this, a lot of what we're doing is your standalone O&M, what we have, plus the approved bond projects, the approved CIP projects, the things that take multiple years to develop. So whether it's funded in the utility fund, whether it's funded through bonds, whether it is just a standard general fund or enterprise fund like the airport, you'll typically have a multi-year process in something that has to be designed, bid, funded, constructed, all of those. So a lot of what we're doing is not new, not novel. A lot of what we're doing also started with prior administrations, then we tweak it. That's pretty much as you're moving forward, you'll inherit projects that, you know, if it's a sewer project, it's taking, especially when you're talking about in the millions of dollars, it's taking several years to play out. So your budget priorities are to some extent, also when you look at bond projects, they're a multi-year commitment. So when we outline the overarching goals of the budget, we were soliciting input. That was the purpose of, and we did talk about council manager during that process on y'all really focusing truthfully on in a strategic way. So even when we do our fall or our winter workshops, whatever they work out to be, ends up being about the same this part of the country. We want the input on the high level type of items that we can then go back and refine prior to budget and then into budget, especially if it's new. If something's new, we're going to need to, you'll be able to see what our delta is in various budget silos. So you'll be able to tell, do we have room to do, I don't know, a bass boat on Lake Nack? I'm just throwing that out as a project. So
You want to go fishing?
I haven't been fishing in a long time. Maybe it's the reason.
Maybe
it
you're
hit me.
fishing, you know.
Swimming with the fishes or something. That's probably where I end up. So I'm just putting that out there as just one example. So
So,
we have.
Go
You want me
ahead.
to run through the slides first?
Sure,
And
please
then-
do,
and
yeah.
there will be
I
probably.
was just called on by the mayor, so go ahead and run through the.
Put it on here.
I did. I'm
Yeah.
happy to put it
Yeah.
on there. Go ahead, and then maybe that'll answer my questions.
And it may not.
May
So-
not.
You had me at Bass Boat.
I can't help myself. At least I didn't say monster truck.
You
or
haven't
something.
cracked a single joke tonight, so we gotta get you going.
I haven't had a moon pie either. So let's start with where we're at. And, you know, we try to share this with you across the year even in our weeklies. Right now, these are our primary funds: general fund, upper left, utility fund, off to the right, sanitation, lower left, airport, lower right. The lower the number, the better. So those that are obviously, the goal would be to keep it under 1.0. 1.0 would be your completely dead flat. As you can see, we're running pretty good on general fund. We're running just below on utility and sanitation funds, and on the airport fund, obviously, you know, that's an area that it's supposed to be an enterprise fund, but it doesn't generate a lot of cash. I can tell you, having been other places that had airports or golf courses, those aren't areas where you typically make a lot of money. And even if there are years where it does go into the black from being in the red, when you make major capital expenditures, oftentimes you flip it upside down. And if you don't do those capital expenditures, usually pushed through by general fund or general fund bonds, your problem gets worse in terms of your O&M costs. So it is a proverbial chicken and egg. You know, you do something and it's going to cost you more. You do nothing, it's going to cost you even more than that in the long run. This next one is just sales tax revenue. As y'all can probably see, we are doing better. You can look just kind of the summary. FY 26 over 25. Then you can also look at what the budget estimates were in terms of what our spend rate is. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. 24 things were, if y'all remember, when interest rates went up, it had a little bit of a chilling effect on things. So 24, 25 was not as robust as 23, 24. However, if you also remember, it took a while for UT and SFA to ramp up. And I think yes, interest rates are higher, but yes, we're also getting the demand related to SFA finally kicking in with the additional students, some of the additional expenditures, and that's to be expected. That doesn't mean going back, this is not a Fidelity or other investment house commercial that past performance is going to be an indicator of future performance, because there are a lot of things going on in the world. Turnover rate. Y'all asked us to look at this previously. We were up over 20%, which actually, back in 23, that's actually up in the 20s is where a lot of the cities stay. Sometimes they get up closer to 30. We were trending in a few departments. We might have been down closer to 15, 16. I think we've had one or two specifically that are fairly high stress, that have had some turnover, but we've also had some that historically have had some issues that have really stabilized. And I want to say kudos to Chief Weems in terms of the sworn side and filling back up PD, and also to Chief Brown. I think our turnover has almost been cut in half, or cut in less than half. I'd have to go back to
He didn't have turnover.
other documents. So they're doing great. Yeah, they're I think Brown is poking Weems over that issue right now. And then you have the other inputs that I do believe are can directly affect your turnover. yes, people go into public employment because they usually have an altruistic component, but they also go into it to feed their families, insurance, all those things. And if you look at especially the COVID era, your consumer price index to the right, which is your inflationary effect versus what the raises were, they weren't real strong. I'll just leave it at that. If you look at where we've really been able to taper off and drop things by that, looks like a consistent 5% reduction, then, or actually it's a larger percentage than that. I'll let one of y'all with a PhD do that math for me. Go Cougs. So, but you can see the last 24, 25, and 25, 26, y'all approved what were some of the better raises that have occurred in the last, I think in the case of PD, I think you have to go back to the 80s. I'm not saying that we don't have people that were here in the 80s. They might not have been working here yet, but so that's where that stands. This is what we did in the last budget, and this is kind of, I think this is what our proposed approach may be heading into this one. We're going to look at where everything falls, but we have tried in this last year to knowing that as a percentage, you need to have a higher percentage on those that are in the under 62 tier. And I know we have also, obviously, everyone is affected by the gas prices, but those in that tier are probably going to be affected even more. And we've done 2%. Not that that even keeps pace with CPI, but again, what we're trying to do is improve the trend. And the more we have, we likely would come back. If we can project out that we would have a larger balance, we would obviously try to do more. This is, Todd put this together, and I know this gets into projections. We're still trending fine on cash reserve, meeting the 25% reserve requirement and the excess. Now this slide, what it doesn't tell you is that yes, things are tied to the, not fully, to the CIP. So if you look at 26, there's 2.7 million of capital and CIP items. So some items, as you know, are being funded through bonds. There's other items in terms of even water and sewer where we're actually digging into. We're either doing that or we're matching projects as part of the CIP. So some things are coming out of that, what would be the larger reserve, and the spend rate will, I think I get to the next slide. This will show you, let me go back. So you see the 2.7 and 27. So then by the time you get to 28, there are some additional proposed CIP projects that would hit the general fund reserve. So you can see the excess over reserve, your flashing lights really start hitting in 2028. Now, I know we've talked about, and I do believe this is the case, and there are going to be people that say that are watching that say, no, that's never the case with governmental entity. But if you look at our historic, I mean, let's be honest, let's go back to this. We were not providing even close to CPI on inflation for years. So your staff was not keeping pace. If you were trying to keep pace, just to do that, to retain people, and again, it was affecting you in retention. And it does cost you more in turnover typically. Now, there's some folks are going to retire. Once in a while, you get a few bad apples that just need to go. Those are always factored in. But kind of like if the magic number is 15% in profit for publicly traded entities in a given year, or even mom and pop shops, I think a 15% turnover would be a good target that we're trying to get to, that we're getting close to. And I don't think you'll get that, especially when it affects your some of your lower and mid-tier employees If they have a driving distance option and someone else is keeping pace with CPI, at some point, they probably don't have a choice but to jump ship.
Can I ask you a question about one point in here?
Yes.
So, one thing we discussed in 24 with the police department was the step plan. I think the fire department was fine, but the step plan for the police department. And then in 2025, we didn't have the opportunity to discuss that because we didn't have really a discussion.
Well, we've
So
let me rephrase that. If you look, and I know we don't have Brittany here today, but the step plan was put in place that y'all have before I arrived
Right.
earlier that year.
Before any of us were on council.
So we do have a step. It's probably not perfect.
Right.
We've talked already about doing some tweaks in it. However, we did address it. If you look at 24, 25, y'all
Right.
did that was for
right.
the whole step.
Right.
So the 7.7, it didn't do like a partial. It raised everybody in the department by that 7.7%.
Right, it was great. I think that was a great thing.
And again, we did address it in this last budget as well. They were both shops, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. We did the 3. Y'all got the 3 or the 2.5 or whatever it was. We still have to do some smoothing that we've talked
Right.
about, but they did receive. PD and fire did. We have the 3% and the 2%, the over under. Their step did go up
Yeah,
by that.
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the whole, it's wonky. I mean, we've all talked about this at different times. So I'm just hoping in this coming budget that we can get the step
Well,
plan for the
the-
police a little stronger on the,
this
on the
is-
higher end, and then maybe even trim it a little bit, the number of steps. I think that's,
Well,
or whatever. I
The
mean,
thing you have to
just
remember,
explore it.
it's time. Here's the thing, and keep this in mind: it's time and rank.
Right,
And if you don't promote, most are designed. You stay in 25.
right.
I'm sorry, you're going to top out. If you're not aspirational, don't take that wrong. But if you just want to work patrol for 25 years
Right.
and you don't want to test or promote, most
Well, let me
will
clarify
finally-
this.
most of them will cap.
Let me clarify this. I do think it needs attention, and I'm hoping you
But
look at it.
No, but can you, in what regard? Now, in terms of the entire step, yes, that we need to continue. Now, that being
Refining
said,
it.
to do that, we're also going to need to look at other revenue sources. And that doesn't mean going and slashing your civilians either. So we're going to have a larger revenue discussion about
Right.
other revenues
Right.
that are locally or regionally available.
You have to have revenue before you can do anything. Period.
can't-
Dot.
you
We-
can't chase
And I'm going to
Lufkin
say, I'm going
forever.
to say again, you got 1 cent of that sales tax that's our revenue that's going to that dadgum hospital district. So there's about $10-12 million a year that's going up there. There we go again.
Now,
So
I'll say this. I will say this. A city I came from was a member of a transit authority. It had 1 penny. And 1 penny that you don't, just like us. And yes, they were a unionized shop ultimately, but so were some of the other cities in that region. One of the other cities that was just a little bit bigger had a couple major employers that had been there for a long time. The difference in sales tax take at that time was about 11 million versus like 110 million, that delta. There was no way to chase that city, although in that case, one of the associations said we have to chase them every year. You couldn't chase them any year because they had a net of $100 million more for a comparable sized city of sales tax, and that was just sales tax. And even in their case, if you would have had the full 2 pennies, you still couldn't chase them. They were still a 5-time multiplier ahead. So that is where the apples and oranges thing, we can chase some. We put the pedal down pretty hard this last one. If you look at, again, 24, 25, And when we get to, let me see. Let me find the slide that has so, and you've got to remember, once you do those raises, those are forever, meaning forever your budget is going to be that percentage higher moving forward, so that much more expensive. If you look at 27 versus 28, where that excess revenue, then you have to start making some decisions. You can't prosecute, I hate to use the word prosecute, especially when we're talking about PD. You can't prosecute capital projects more. You kind of have to then stand down. And then at a certain point, you flatline. So probably 29, 30, if we were too aggressive, we'd start running out of options where we would then start maybe not addressing additional capital. And then once that was I hate to say this, that was a lot of what the historic model here was. But there was also, it was not addressing your capital projects, but also not addressing your cost of doing business in terms of salaries and other benefits, because quite frankly, you had a revenue problem compared to your peers. And this is the one thing I'd like to drive home since we're talking about this. We can't be competitive with Longview and Tyler and Lufkin, or even those on the other side of the Brazos, if we don't have comparable revenue streams. So we can, then at a point, you start looking at peers like, okay, we get Chase Crockett. I mean, there starts becoming at a point when you flatline. So at some point, and when we're not saying stand on the brakes, but we are saying, heck, there's some flashing lights ahead. And we even did this prior to the last budget. So we're trying to give you forecasts out so you have enough time to react. Now, there are some assumptions in here that at least values will keep going up too, which I think you either have the 3.5% growth in your ad valorem or you raise taxes. That's kind of baked in. We think that the ad valorem is going to continue to increase. We also know that we're trending on the sales tax. Now, if we got a great big taxpayer come in, we also have to be very careful on how if we do have to incentivize someone, that they're not flatlined for the early years, that we have a net benefit from, say, something that comes to town that has a lot of employers, that maybe also generates a lot of traffic, and PD or fire have to respond to some of their heavy trucks or something. So we have to think about, even when we get a win, it could be a short-term loss in some ways. It'll be a win for employment and then back to sales tax locally potentially. But if we're missing all the ad valorem, it could also be a short-term drain in some cases on some of our emergency response, especially if it's something that's, let's say, fire hazard or something kind of just inherent in the business model. Okay, this is where the budget calendar, this is proposed. That's why we had it in here. So again, the items, the first four on the left, those are all internal. And that would be so we could meet, let's say, the council workshop in July. Then of course we have the CAD, and then when you go back over to the other side, that's what we're laying out. This is effectively the same thing we did last year. Now, you mentioned priorities, challenges. So, correct me if I'm wrong. This is an update from the one that we had actually at the retreat. And so, this is what we showed y'all at the retreat as budget priorities. And this is kind of going back to the beginning of the presentation, where we're trying to tell you or show you, engage you, tell you again, and then re-engage you as we're hitting mid-year, and then as we're also planning into the next budget cycle. So several of these, you could take the first bullet. I mean, We've stabilized retention. We've recruited most of the folks that we need on, let's say, finance and the engineering side, bullet 2. PD is almost full. Fire is ribbing them because they haven't had any turnover. They want to leave.
They never have had turnover.
And then, let's see, then if you look at talking about general fund, utility funds, we're planning a workshop in May to get deeper into the details. That's going to be held over at the 12th. It's an even number. It's close enough.
Is that one going to be recorded? The May 12th one?
Well, that would be an open house. Those typically aren't recorded. The workshop
Yeah.
session would be.
Okay, that's what I mentioned.
It's just,
Yeah.
we can't
Right.
live stream out of that building. Isn't it always better to watch something that's tape delayed so you don't know the score when everybody else does?
I never watch them, but
Yeah, let's see. And of course, okay, if you look at, working with SFA, their master plan, what we're doing on North, working with TxDOT, that's all working in tandem. The others, we're still going after primary jobs. Mary Frances doing a great job on that front, as is the rest of the staff and planning development staff and engineering. The housing, really, I would say that workshop, housing, the gap analysis on what it says workshop, that's one of those things. I guess you've submitted one thing to TxDOT to GLO on that one. And so the comp plan, in terms of if the comp plan doesn't get funded, we still might want to do something through the Type B. I'm not saying that it means, if it looks like we have gaps in different ranges of housing that we subsidize it, but we may be able to use that as a segue into with builders and developers to say, look, we've got pent-up demand in these areas. We've analyzed it. Here it is. Go and do good. Downtown implementation plan, talked about that. We're going to be coming back to y'all with something on that. Talked about the highest best use of city assets and the reserve requirements, which kind of shown some of that.
can you go back to that page? Just, I think one of the things that were our priorities that have been listed, and it probably isn't a huge budget item, but I would prefer if we keep it as a priority, is our historic, our tourism, the stone fort, the cultural base for, history. I think it may fit under your leverage city assets or something, but I think
And some
that
of
should
it
be
fits
a-
to the downtown plan, and some of it fits to working with SFA.
But I
all-
think
all
it
the
would be
above.
helpful to, just add that and make sure that that's highlighted. Because I think what happens is some of the things that are important, but they're small, we may kind of forget about them because they're really small and they don't take as much attention.
Staff doesn't let us, as much as we try, forget
That's
about
what
those
our
things.
finance department's for. They
But
don't
we will,
forget.
we will
No,
add, we
but-
can add
And
that.
they work with whatever they have, whatever money that they have.
Well, let me clarify. There are things that are important, that may not even make it up to the level of the staff that are from, for example, having at least one site open on Sunday. That's been, discussed for at least 5 years. So they may not make it up to that level. That's why I'm saying if we can put that as a priority.
You still have to have the revenue, Kathleen.
Right, or maybe not.
Well,
Maybe it can be
well,
adjusted.
let me-
Nobody's gonna do
revenue.
it free.
Well, let me throw one thing on that front.
Mhm.
If you do look at on a Sunday, and believe me, I'm the guy that would prefer the blue laws being back. Believe me, forcing people to.
Some people
take
don't
some
even
time.
know what that is, by the way.
Yeah. It wasn't not blue light specials, but I remember those too. So, God, I miss the old days. Anyway, if you look at downtown on an afternoon on a Sunday after church and everything, after you get something to eat, there's really not a lot that's open. And I think that some of this discussion probably needs to be also with Main Street and also with the chamber. I think it would make more sense if let's say we had, even the visitor center was, opened at 7 days a week or something like that, and one or two of the maybe downtown historic sites. If we probably need to work together in a team effort to have that net benefit.
Right.
And so, I mean,
I was more thinking like Zion Hill is a church, and it would be nice to have it open on the Sunday.
well, and then I
But
think.
I know there's a give and take, but maybe reallocating resources too is part of the issue.
Well,
But as long
or
as we know
sliding,
this is a priority.
Or even sliding, there are businesses that aren't open on Mondays,
Right,
but they're open Fridays
Yeah.
or Wednesday through Sunday or something, and they're not open Monday, Tuesday, whatever
right,
it is.
right. It was kind of like a chicken and an egg thing. The businesses can't stay open because there's not enough other stuff to do.
And I think, again,
History,
it goes
and
back to
then-
the SFA link,
Right,
because
sure does.
you see folks, and maybe it's not all year, maybe it's during school time, because that's when you're seeing much
Right.
more activity downtown, people looking for stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think we're all seeing
Good
it.
point. But I think you're right. and It's a larger conversation, but you may want to put it as a separate thing, so we just attend
Sure.
to it.
I was going to say, bring back the blue. No, I didn't do that. I won't run through all of these because y'all probably already,
Right.
I'm sure everybody at home's tired of hearing me talk. Believe it or not, I even get tired of hearing me talk, as Chad yawns.
Well, this is much more than I asked for. I just wanted a discussion, so.
So these are,
Thank
I
you.
mean, this gives you an idea. This is higher level of all these things we're working on, not the things we're going after money on, not the legislative pieces that we're chasing still. But it's more than nothing. That's why several of us don't have any hair. I'll leave it at that. I know we call this this should really say like planning priorities. So as you can see, this is again high level. Some of these things we've either completed, we're coordinating with, we're pursuing. Downtown plan. Even though it is the plan is complete, we're moving forward on specific items within it. We've got an MOU on the Stone Fort with SFA, and they're leading that charge. TxDOT is working on 69. We're coordinating with them. The comp plan, we've submitted that to GLO. MOU with TxDOT on North. Then you get into the other things that we will over time get deeper into, some of which are more in the early stages, for not as fleshed out as some of the things a little bit higher up. And then G, legislative. But do you want to go back to I guess you have to close that. Yeah. Did y'all want to?
No, I thought that was very, very helpful. Again, I just wanted a general discussion, but this is great. And I think this is really helpful to have these documents in the public domain, and which they will be because they're part of the meeting, so. it's
You'll
great.
probably hear that all over again too, what you heard tonight.
Well, remember we
Anybody?
tell you again, and then
Yeah.
tell you a third time, so we
Anybody else
remember.
have any discussion on this? We good? Okay, I think we've had our discussion. Okay. Item 6G, hold a discussion regarding legislative priorities for the upcoming 90th legislative session. Kathleen, you put this on the agenda.
Boom. How's that? Sorry. Oh, y'all can see it on your screen.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
So, in 25,
Kathleen, you and,
Well, I'm asking for him to go ahead.
okay, you put it on the agenda. I just want to make sure you didn't have any comment before you started.
No, well,
Okay.
very happy for you to start, Rick.
well, in 25, I know we played a lot of defense. Some of the things in the legislative session, thanks to Representative Schaffner and Senator Nichols on helping us with that. Some things, obviously, didn't the shot clock get shorter? Did they tried. Yeah, they tried to shorten it. I mean, there's a point in there where if you shorten things like the 30-day shot clock, you don't even have enough time to post a public meeting and actually have a shot clock. You just,
Right.
it'll be a shall issue. And I'm sure Jerry will say, that's not how you should say it, but close enough. And then just in terms of land use, there were some things, have we already moved forward on the manufactured housing piece in zoning? So there are some things, so we're a political subdivision of the state of Texas. And so at minimum, we can only do what they allow us to do. And then things that aren't addressed, y'all can pass ordinances in that regard. But there has been kind of a trend on at least the bills that were filed to, I guess, get, for a better word, more uniformity across Texas on what's allowed. So we think kind of rolling into 26, the emphasis back on local control, because at a point, if a few more of those bills would have passed, then you certainly won't need a planning department. Nice way to put it. We do think we would like to work with our partners on, because I think we're getting closer to items being at least resolved in terms of the hospital district and their lease and everything with tenant, hopefully, that at least in this session address the economic development provision. Maybe that's the only thing that's addressed, even long-term.
So I had a question about that. Should I stop when I have the question?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Sure, okay. So I had seen these in our audit report and the 2026 priorities and listed in there. And so I had questions then, so I thought it's a good time to raise them well ahead of when we're going to do this. So I don't know what that means, the hospital district, economic development provision,
So
district
right
county
now-
delegation?
Yes, so right now, there is an existing provision under enabling legislation that effectively would allow, I think, based on the current percentage of sales tax, a voluntary agreement between the hospital district and either a Type B or NEDCO. In this case, I'd say a Type B since it's been formed. I think the math would work out to be about 25,000. Now, if their revenue is stabilized or the various silos that they operate in, and let's assume at what point you've got both bonds made whole and also their debt and also their indigent care piece, because those are with there being residual left over. If that multiplier, there is a multiplier in the formula, if that multiplier were tweaked, that would provide flexibility that at which time, let's say the city and the hospital district, that it was prudent to enter into an agreement, that would give you the flexibility to do that. And then what we would do under that scenario, obviously, you'd try to direct that to the Type B. You could do that without actually going back out to the voters, because you do have an existing provision that, again, that if all the parties agreed to it, you could change the multiplier.
So when you have, with the district county delegation, that is if all of you are in agreement with this, is that
Well,
correct?
We would, in a perfect world, you'd want everybody to agree on the direction. Now,
So-
again, this would be a voluntary, it's not again, it would not be a shall enter into an agreement. It would just be working to tweak the multiplier, to take off the 0 zeros in there behind the decimal and take it down to something like 0.25, just as an example. I think that effectively it may work out to be striking like half the sentence of the current legislation that's already there.
So what if the hospital district doesn't agree with that? Doesn't want this
Again,
proposed?
then it doesn't happen, and then you've got a Type B that
Well,
isn't funded.
it could possibly happen. I mean, your legislatures could
Well,
still introduce the
Yeah,
bill.
They could if they wanted to.
Yeah, now whether or not it passes in committee and gets to the floor would be a totally different deal. But if you had two parties that passed a resolution and one that didn't, they could still present a bill in December.
We're just suggesting that this is one alternative without any, you know,
The first year of revenue that they're gonna have is gonna be about $20.1 million.
So my question is, if the hospital district doesn't agree or they think this is a threat to them, are you saying this will still be our legislative priority?
no, I'm saying this is for y'all to decide
Okay,
that y'all want a resolution or not,
right,
to try to work with them heading into the next session. Otherwise, you got 2 more years to wait.
right.
And my hair is not getting any less gray on my face. I'll leave it at that.
Right. Well, as long as we can clarify that, I mean, otherwise we could have a vote or something, but I'm concerned that there've been so many kind of, I don't quite know the word, but, I don't want to say threatening, but so many, statements that I would prefer. I don't really want it as a legislative priority if it's considered an assault or something like that.
Why would it be considered an assault?
Right.
It's a tool in the toolbox. Let me just say this. We're the only ones around here that don't have a funded type B.
Right.
So we are luckily getting a pretty good amount of employers and retail and restaurants.
Right.
However, there are things that we probably aren't getting. And then as we get this built-in demand, we do have competitors in our region, north of us and south of us, that if it meant sweetening the pot to land something that the community might like to have, we don't have the pot. And it does generate, again, it would generate more revenue. The more sales tax we add, it does add more revenue to the hospital district as well. So this is just putting it on the table. We had it in the fall. We had it in last year in discussion. We have it in here because this is not an assault. This is not anything like that. This is an option for y'all to consider. That's all it is.
Right. So as long as we'll consider it, but not, I'm back to this, I actually made the motion that was voted down before, that we needed to be working, that we needed to be working with all three, and we need to come together on this. And if we're not together, then I would like to rethink whether it's our legislative priority. That's just mine.
Well,
Well, it's a priority of mine.
Well, we can have a vote on it, whether
Right,
to
we
include
can.
it.
Well,
That's
let me-
what we usually do.
let me
but
just say
instead
this.
of discussion.
We
So-
have the district on there by design.
Right.
We had the district on there as what we were hoping.
When you get
last
them
year.
to talk to you, what do? You know,
Well, is that the case, that the hospital district won't talk to you, or? I mean, you're, is
Well,
that
let me
what you're saying?
let me just leave it at this. We have not pushed this issue further. They're obviously working on their lease with the private sector and trying to stabilize everything. Once that is passed, what we're suggesting is, hey, here's something that would benefit the community
Okay.
that's potentially on the table. Would you have an interest in supporting it? And that's it.
Right, and then we can include it or not include it, or at least
Well-
have a vote on it.
we can have a vote on it.
However y'all
Fine with me,
would.
a vote will be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we can't vote tonight, but, it's not on the,
It'd be a
We- We've done a resolution on this last year,
Yeah,
or
y'all-
year
y'all-
before
y'all
last,
did
we waited too late to get anything done because they needed the bill in Austin in December. We did a resolution.
Y'all-
You
y'all-
voted it down. You voted against it, Kathleen.
Y'all had one last year,
Yeah.
but their position probably financially should be stronger.
this vote would not be on the resolution, this would be whether this is our legislative priority. So I think we ought to, if, pardon?
Well, we
I'd
established.
requested that we bring it back to a
But
vote.
we established the priorities by resolution last year, is what we did.
Well, I'm requesting that we bring it back to a vote, whether it's our legislative priority, but after.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
we
we'll give
would-
you some time to try and work it out together. Please do.
You gotta remember, you also are gonna have a changing of the guard at the county. And so
Right.
there's several people that have not, you've got a different paradigm right now.
Right.
You've got that, you've got, their forecasts on what they're looking at, which until their lease is complete, I don't even think there's anything to talk about. What that multiplier, could be tweaked to near term or long term or any of the above.
Great.
So the last one, and this is something I'm throwing out here, and this would be really a discussion probably even at the Main Street level and with our large property owners downtown. Municipal Management District is not a TERS. It's not a tax increment reinvestment zone. It does have a lot of capabilities as a political. It's another. It can be a grantee. It can accept grants. It's a political subdivision of the state, from what I remember, under enabling legislation. You have to go through the process of the hearings at the legislature, usually at the request of a municipality. And what it does do, it effectively lets those property owners, if I think you have 70% agree to it, assess themselves. So it's a long-term assessment that can be utilized within that district for maintenance, operations. It may even be able to help with O&M for a parking garage, things like that. It is a tool that if you let's use Houston as an example. A lot of the areas of Houston that you would say are better, well-kept, special districts are usually in place. You can look at some out as far, I think, the Woodlands, but you can also look all the way down in town, like Upper Kirby and Uptown Houston, where the gallery is, and those areas. And then typically, once you cross out of them, you also see where the districts aren't, where they're not doing graffiti abatement, they're not doing seasonal plantings, they're not putting in ADA ramps, they're not emptying trash cans. Since we have, this would be kind of a next step also on the heels of the discussions on the downtown garage and what we're looking at for downtown highest and best use. So that's what that is, and we can bring more information to y'all.
When you
as well.
bring information, can you explain how it'll affect small businesses? Will they have extra taxes they'll have
Well,
to pay?
again, the owners are the ones that pay it, how they
Right.
pass that through. But if the owners were to desire that, they're probably going to be going up on that rent, and they're going to want everything to be kept nicer anyway. This is a way for them to kind of have a voice in the matter
Well,
in terms of working together to maintain a higher quality of maintenance for downtown.
Can you bring back some data on that? And I'm thinking of like the small restaurants, they own their own business, they own their own property, the small hairdressers, the small, I don't think they can charge more.
No, I
in
believe
the
the
downtown.
legislation is about I believe it takes about 70% of the, within, and Jerry's nodding. I've forgotten these things from 25 years ago, but 70% of the properties within that, a given boundary would have to approve it, of property owners,
So if
of
70%,
property owners.
if 70% of the property owners approved it, then 100% of the property owners would have to pay this tax. Is
Believe
that
so.
correct?
Yeah, correct.
So anyways, if you would think
That's-
about that and bring back more information about, are
Yeah.
are we talking about putting these people out of business right now? I'm just thinking of, Stonehouse, restaurant, bakery. I'm thinking of,
Well, I'm thinking at the same
Different-
time, you've got major employers coming
Yeah.
downtown.
who knows?
First thing we're
Go
gonna do is
ahead.
put Johnson Furniture out of business. Wink, wink.
Okay.
The,
But I'm talking about even smaller, the ones that,
and what we're talking
don't
about
have
is a
very
higher
much.
level of maintenance. At the same time, you have a higher amount of traffic. So at the end of the day, again, just consider it. Do you want it to be better than it has been in past years? I mean, everything from additional benches and plantings, again, ADA ramps. Maybe it's you look at the garage project. You're also going to have some of those that don't have any dedicated parking that will actually, there will be more parking in downtown relative to what it is today. Long term, it would be great to have an additional maintenance option for all of those that benefit. So they would all benefit within that district theoretically if you had another 100 parking spaces downtown. So the question would be, do you want that maintenance to come out of O&M of general fund, or would you like to have another tool in the toolbox to bring to the table? And that's one of the things that you could do with it.
I have another question on the, what is one of our priorities working with the Texas Historical Commission, you know, for a museum, for Father Marhill, for the,
Well, we worked with them in the last session.
Yeah. Are we gonna go back again?
We weren't
or-
not planning to pursue that as well. We also are looking at what happens. I don't know if this is I don't know if we'll have all of the results. We probably will have them for the Stone Fort, but I think what happens with the Stone Fort and the SFA site selection process would also be fed into this once we know where that would go.
So then we're gonna finalize these priorities at some point and vote on them, or do some kind of-
We did it last time, from what I remember, by resolution. By resolution, yeah.
Okay,
And we would, so, once the Stone Fort, you know, if it lands downtown as an example, if there's a nexus back to a visitor center that the state would also fund, and Father Marhill, and also even the Camino Real in general, those are probably several funding opportunities in there that may need some long-term tweaking of legislation to help fund. So that could go into the box too. Any other questions?
This was really helpful to me, and I think clarified some items, and I appreciate you doing it.
Someone else want to take a strike at the human pinata?
I hope I wasn't striking
Oh, no,
you.
I love nachos, so I'm obviously hungry, so I'm thinking about pinatas.
Anybody else have any questions? That was just discussion. Okay, that concludes tonight's regular meeting. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, we will adjourn to executive session. Thank you very much. Okay, we're returning from executive session at 8:05. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. No action taken. This meeting is adjourned, and God bless the great city of Nacogdoches, Texas. Thank you for coming.